Hey, y'all. Welcome back to Therapy Tea and to another episode of our special series, Mental Motherhood.
That's right. In this 10-part series, we're exploring the varied experiences of mental health professionals who are also mothers throughout the various stages of motherhood, and specifically, the things they wish they had known sooner.
Yep, we're checking back in with some of our prior guests and digging into the truth about being a mom and a mental health professional, just in case you think you want to try and do both.
Let's get to it.
Welcome back to Therapy Tea and another episode of our very special series, Mental Motherhood. We are so lucky that we've got Kelly Martin back with us today. Welcome back, Kelly.
Thank you. Good to be back.
Woo, Kelly. Oh man, Kelly is. I think I would consider her like an OG of the Therapy Tea alumnus. Not so much.
She's in the double digits, actually. So
Really, that felt
yeah,
long time.
Were you gonna guess? Do you want to guess the number? I know.
know.
Nobody else knows, huh?
20.
Pretty close. 24. So
Oh.
our first conversation with Kelly is episode number 24. So if you haven't listened to that yet, guys, go back and listen to that to find out more about Kelly and how she became the boss group practice owner that she is today, because we're just plain not going to talk about that. I mean, not really. Instead, we're going to talk to Kelly about what it's like to be a mom to the dreaded teenagers. Dun, dun, dun. How old are your kids now, Kelly?
So I have a 16-year-old boy and a 13-year-old girl.
Good.
Fun.
Sometimes.
Just right the pruning period. We're right in it for both of them. Awesome.
Yeah. Okay. Well, give us a sense of what is it like to have teenagers while running a practice, seeing clients.
So I actually really enjoy this age. It's not without challenges for sure, but they're independent little people. So, I can leave them, it's summer right now, so I can leave them for the day and they can feed themselves and take care of themselves and for the most part entertain themselves until I can, finish up with work. So that part's really nice. My 16-year-old recently got his driver's license, so that's also really nice. So I get my life back a little bit for,
Yes.
club sports and not having to drive him 5 times a day somewhere.
Oh
So
my
that's
gosh.
really nice. And I can also just give them some money and send them to the movies, for the day or whatever they want to do for the day. So that's really nice. Challenges? Oof.
Wait, hold on. You can just send them, leave them at home, send them out with money, and they don't act like hooligans. They don't break shit,
No, they're
burn
pretty
house down.
No, they're pretty chill.
What?
They cook for themselves. They are pretty self-sufficient now, so that's a huge blessing for sure.
Huh,
That's
so-
a lot of that's not like yes, it is a blessing, right? Like I guess to a certain degree, yes, that's a blessing. But as a parent therapist, I would also say that is a lot of hard work on your part. Like to create
to get here, you mean?
Yes.
Ah.
Yes. I mean, I can't tell you how many parents are like, what do I do? Like they just won't do anything. And I'm like, well, have we given them skills? And they're like, well, I don't know. And I'm like, okay.
Then they don't
That's-
either.
That's probably why.
Mhm.
That's awesome.
So you
Yeah.
spent time teaching them how to use the air fryer and shit like that.
Yeah. Yeah, we've spent some time doing that. They're supposed to be cooking meals once a week for the family, and
Oh.
we haven't been great on follow through with that because by the end of the night we're just like, I don't want to deal with it, so we'll just cook for you. But so that's like a future problem, I think, is teaching them that part of it. They have chores and stuff that they've got to do every day. So they're pretty well, for the most part, pretty well trained. The 16-year-old's a little bit better than the 13-year-old on most things, but some things the 13-year-old's more responsible. So it just depends on the day.
My partner and I were literally just talking about this morning. He works at a big hospital, and he's been a nurse for a long time. But he says that this whole conversation started with like a 17-year-old boy, I should say that. A 17-year-old boy came into the hospital because he decided, those like scooters that are in like Austin and all the big cities, and they create a lot of chaos, but everybody keeps using them, and so they're going to continue to stay here. those electric scooters, he decided to do a wheelie
Hell yeah.
while crossing the street in a major city. He's just popping a wheelie on the scooter, boom, gets hit by a car. And I like, yeah,
Yeah.
right? And my partner was like, "I don't even know how I made it as a teenage boy." Like, teenage boys, I don't know what's wrong with them sometimes. Like, it's like, I don't remember feeling that way as a teenage girl. I was like,
Mm.
"A house party? Like, at a man's house? No, I'm not going there. It smells in there.
Bedtime.
That's gross. What if we get kidnapped?" Like, I was very anxious, but, like, he was like, "Oh, yeah, I drove my dad's truck like 100 miles an hour," and I'm like, "Oh my god."
Oh, that was before the creation of, like, Life 360, so I, like, know
That's true.
where he's going, how fast he's going, but no, he's risk adverse. My
Ah,
16-year-old is
that's
pretty risk
lucky.
adverse. My
I didn't
13-year-old's a
realize.
whole 'nother story. Like,
Oh,
she's the one we're gonna have to worry about. Yeah, for sure.
oh no. That makes me
Well,
feel scared.
we interrupted you with our disbelief,
Sorry.
but
Yes.
yeah, now is the time for the challenges. What are the biggest challenges at this stage of motherhood?
You know, it's like when they're little, you're, like, keeping them physically safe, you know? It's like everything is like, "Don't touch that," "Don't do this, don't do that." And then as they get older, there's so much unseen safety stuff, like internet safety and, like, friend stuff and, like, the mental health stuff. And so I think that's the challenging part of this age is, like, they get to a certain age and they stop telling you everything, and you try as much as you can to keep the communication open, and you hope it's
Yeah.
open, but, yeah, there's still plenty of crap they're not telling you.
You're not
So
their best friend anymore. Somehow you got,
exactly.
like,
I know
demoted.
my 13-year-old still tells me I'm her best friend, which is adorable, but, like, oh, that's gonna run out real soon.
Mm.
But that's okay. I'm ready for it, I think. But yeah, that's challenging, and I think as being a counselor, you get to see I don't treat very many teens anymore, but you get to see, like, all the bad parts of humanity, especially, like, a trauma counselor. And
Mhm.
so there's a lot of extra, I think, worry that goes along with that and kinda paranoia that you have to keep checked because it's really easy for that to kinda take over.
Yeah, do you sense that there are certain things that maybe come up in sessions that then you're like, "Ah, I need to talk to my kid about that now."
Oh, yes. All the time, all the time. And I was when I was talking to my husband last night about, like, what have I struggled with? Because sometimes I have a hard time recognizing that. And he's like, "Oh, if you see a lot of something at work, you immediately come home and are like, 'I'm worried about the kids with this.'" And so if I see, like, a trend or if I see, like, some social media craziness or if I see a lot of clients who are dealing with suicidality or self-injury, like, I come home and I'm like, "Okay, like, we need to have these conversations," or like, "Oh, I'm worried about this," and, like, have you seen signs of that talking with my spouse?
Yeah, how do you transition then? It seems like there's a little bit of bleed sometimes between mom mode and therapist mode at this stage. Like, how do you have a way to compartmentalize or deal with the transition? Like, how do you do that?
I feel like I'm actually the opposite. I There is that sort of bleed with, like, the worry, but I don't feel like that translates as much to the kids. I feel like I'm worse about, like, that hat comes off completely as I walk out of the therapy room, and so I don't use it as much as I probably should with
Mm.
my teens as far as, like, communication and using I statements and, not losing my shit about stuff. And so I do definitely struggle a little bit. I think I used to be when they were younger, the more therapeutic one because I was seeing kids at the time. And so now that I'm away from seeing kids and I'm seeing more adults, I feel like sometimes I forget like my therapy skills that need to be also people skills and
Totally.
human skills.
I get
So,
that. I feel like I'm like that sometimes too, where like I take my therapist hat off so completely that, when other people are around me in social interactions, they really can't believe that this is what I do for a living.
all the time.
Can't imagine it, right? Like, yeah, I know. I'm very different in a
Mhm.
therapy session, but maybe I should let him bleed a bit, I don't know. It's up for debate.
So, did you say you used to see kids and then or, younger people, adolescents, but you don't quite anymore. You see more so adults. Do you think it's maybe because you had kids or did it just feel more like a you shift, like a professional shift?
I think it was both. I think
Okay.
I saw kids up until probably 3 or 4 years ago exclusively. Like, I saw nothing but child and adolescent. I would not see an adult. And I'm not entirely sure what the shift was other than I think I was getting burnt out with that population, having kids myself and the area. I think at that time they were in a struggling area. We were getting them diagnosed with ADHD, both of them, and dealing with trying to get them into their own therapy. And so I think that probably was a big part of the shift is like, I've got a lot going on with these little people in my life. And so I need to be able to focus more fully on them in order to not let it maybe, yeah, let that burnout kind of come into my personal life and having more bandwidth to deal with them.
Yeah. I'm curious about, like, handling neurodivergence as a parent, as well as, like, in your professional life. How has that been?
I feel like in some aspects it's been really helpful being a therapist, especially like dealing with school systems and stuff like that. So having seen kids for the first 75% of my career, you deal a lot with like 504 plans and IEPs and knowing how to advocate for your child and get testing and what kind of testing you need and all of that. So I was very familiar with it. I think it was really helpful to get that because that's not always the easiest system to navigate. And if you don't know how to advocate for kids, then you're kind of stuck. Like you have to kind of figure it out on your own or get an advocate, which I always suggest. But so I think it was really helpful in that way. But neurodivergence, I think I've had to continue to do a lot of research on and just reading on and listening to their own therapist. I think having your kids have their own therapist is such a huge, huge help because I think as mental health professionals, you feel the weight of your kids' full mental health is on your shoulders. Even if you've got a great spouse that is able to help share that load, just because of the nature of knowing what you know and your job being what it is, like, it's hard. And so when we did get them both into counseling and found really good, wonderful counselors for them, I do feel like that helps so much to not have that feel like it's just me, like,
Mm.
looking for and experiencing and trying to figure out everything for them. And so that was hugely helpful, but, yeah, there's plenty of times where I feel like being a counselor is not the most helpful thing for your kids.
Yes. I saw this video recently. It was like a comedy video, but it was like a girl crying and she was like, "Man, I wish I wasn't smart. I wish I was dumb. You guys seem so much happier." And that's so true. Like parents always want to know all the things, but I find that as soon as I tell them all the things, it's like, "I wish I didn't know now, though. I kind of wish that it was easier and I didn't have to consider all these things and how was and I think as a counselor, your self-reflection skills really build. And so you're kind of constantly, we deal with imposter syndrome all the time, but having kids with teenagers who have some high emotional needs, do you ever find yourself like reflecting maybe too much?
Mhm. Oh, yes. Well, and I have specifically, like, my daughter's always been, like, from toddler, very emotionally intelligent, and so she can very clearly most of the time, if she's in the right part of her brain, like, she can clearly tell you what exactly she needs and how exactly she needs it, and sometimes it's a little forceful. She is kind of she's a wrecking ball a lot of the times, but it's helpful sometimes, because 'cause she'll tell you, like, "I don't appreciate your tone," or, "I don't like how you told me that." At 13 and she's taller than me and, looking down at me and you're like, "Oof, gosh, that's rough, but you're right. Like, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said it like that." So I feel like it's wonderful because I've raised this, a somewhat inherently emotionally intelligent being, but then you get that back, It comes back at you all the
Yeah.
time, and so that's hard. That's hard
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
deal with
And
sometimes.
it's like you only find out how that feels when it happens
Oh, yeah.
and how
Yeah.
you are gonna react to it or how it makes you feel. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of the thing about parenting teenagers is you want them to have these skills, but then they start using the skills. But I deal with this with parents all the time. Like as
Yeah.
soon as the teenager starts using the self-advocacy skills or the negotiation skills or the compromise skills that we are working on in therapy and that parents are like, "Yay, I'm glad they're working on this." It's like they're using them now though, and parents are like, "Oh, I I hate this because now I have to change my behavior."
Mhm. Yeah.
Kelly, is there some stuff that you wish you had known sooner about being both a mom and a mental health professional?
And a private practice owner, and you own a group practice. So maybe
I feel like it's taken me a lot of years to learn and it's still a lesson in progress constantly, like, the balance the balancing act between kids and a practice and a therapist. So learning how to manage your time and really leave work at work, and which I think I have that part of it down, but I'm notorious for coming home and continuing to work once I'm at home. And so really being able to have those good work hours and those work boundaries so that you can put it down and spend time with your kids. I'm a chronic multitasker. And so I struggle with just putting aside the time just to spend with them, by themselves and not also be answering emails or whatever on my phone. So I think that's something that I'm still working on. I learned pretty early on and pretty well the boundary of leave work at work, don't bring it home with you. And so that I feel like I've gotten down pretty good, but I think that's a hard skill also. Like that's a little bit of trial by fire sometimes. I think those are the big things I've learned. And maybe, like I said, keep my therapy hat on a little bit more with my kids and not so much of leaving that. Oh, the other big one I think too is self-care. Like you can't be a good human for your kids and a parent for your kids if you're pouring from an empty cup. That's also still a hard lesson, is taking time for self-care, because I think it adds on another layer of mom guilt that you're away from your kids all day, even as teenagers and they're home all summer, is the fact that what this is doing to them for them not to get the time with you. And so that's an extra layer you get put on with the regular mom guilt that already exists.
Do you think your self-care needs or just routines have changed as your kids gotten older, like as they're at this different stage now?
Yeah, I definitely think so. I think I have an easier time because they're more independent, right? You don't
Yeah.
have to take so much time. Like they've got their own things going on. They can go spend time with their friends. They can, do whatever on their own. So that makes it a little bit easier. And I think it's also you can get them to engage with your self-care as well. Like if you have a hobby, then you get them involved in it. One of our favorite things to do is find shows to watch together. Because that's really fun to connect with. So, my daughter and I have watched Gilmore Girls together, start to finish. We're towards the end of the last season, so I'll be sad when we'll have to find a new show. And then we have a family show, so we're watching Modern Family right now, which is great. And there's really great conversations we can have out of that show. And so, finding ways to get them involved too I think it makes it easier at this age than when they were little bitties.
That's cool. I love that idea of your self-care at this age can involve them, which is another form of modeling too.
Definitely.
By engaging with them and having them be a part of it with you, you're also modeling this is important for a person to do.
Yeah, definitely.
Since you have teenagers, can you reflect on how things have sort of changed for you? Because if I'm remembering correctly in your episode, you had kids on a military base and stuff. Am I remembering that?
Yeah.
Right? Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
you were pregnant while you were taking the NCE, right?
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So kids
Right.
this whole time throughout your entire career,
Right.
through every
They
stage.
take up
Yeah.
such a big part and you've of your life up until this point. I know it's easier now. I don't really know what my
I
question.
mean, it was hard. It was
Yeah.
hard. When they were little bitty, I mean, my first job as a counselor was working in a mental hospital, inpatient mental hospital. I was working 50 plus hours a week. There'd be times when I had my son, because I only had him at that time, where I would put him down or, he'd be asleep in the morning when I left and he'd be back asleep when I got home at night. I wouldn't see him.
Yeah.
So those 3 years I did that were super difficult. And I knew when I got pregnant with my second that there was no way I wanted to keep doing that. So I transitioned out of that job right after she was born into a private practice kind of setting that was nonprofit. And I think that gave me a lot more ability to have control over my life and my schedule. And even more so when we moved here and I started the group practice. But I think it's important to note that when you're starting a practice, that takes all your time. I mean,
It's
Yeah.
another child in a lot of
it is
ways,
another
right?
child, and I always say it's my 3rd child for sure, and that's how I feel about it, and so, I mean, I'm at the 10-year mark, next month of owning my group practice, and I'm just now realizing, so I guess this is another thing I wish I had known more of or decided more of sooner, of being able to hand off some of the tasks. Up until now, it's been me. I've done all of it, except for, I've learned to dole a couple of things out, but for the most part, the whole practice is run by me. And so I'm just now handing off those tasks and hiring someone else or putting someone in that role to be a help me practice manage. And I wish I'd done that a lot sooner. my inner control freak and perfectionist did not allow for that. But that's a definitely a lesson I needed to learn earlier because I'm feeling like I can see that tunnel, the end of that tunnel and being like, wow, I'm going to have my life back, like in a lot of ways and have a lot more time to spend with the people I care about. And I wish that somebody had helped me work through that a little sooner.
Yeah, I guess that's kind of what I'm thinking about as you're talking about having, teenage kids is like you probably have more time now. Like because the kids'
Mhm.
needs are less and like you've been running this private practice like that's a big shift for you. Like being such a go-getter and having kids with high needs and then now it's like you're handing stuff off and you have kids who don't really need you quite as much anymore.
Mhm.
Yeah, and you're a multitasker, so what are you filling
Right.
up the space with, Kelly? We know you're doing something with it. You're not just
I'm
relaxing.
No, absolutely not. And actually that was the whole catalyst behind me. I guess I have to be honest here. So that was the whole catalyst behind me getting someone to help me in the practice was because I want to start a nonprofit. So I'm actually working on the business plan for my nonprofit right now. But I'm trying to do that when they're
Baby number
busy.
4, is that what you're trying to do right
Maybe
now?
number maybe number
Jesus
4,
Christ.
right? So yeah, that's where actually my time but it's also I'm trying to be very, like, smarter 10 years down the line, like, only doing it when they're doing other things. So, like, usually I'm working on this at night when they're at their sports practice so that I'm not taking away from my time with them.
Like, looking back from the stage you're in now with these teenagers, is there kind of with a hindsight perspective, can you pinpoint, like, a when it sort of started to get a little easier from, like, a intensity of time and energy as a parent?
Yeah, probably about the, like depending on your kid, obviously every kid's different, probably about the 10 to 12 mark, depending. I think it's a whole nother level right now when you get a driver, like, which is terrifying, obviously, but like that is turned a major corner because we were driving back and forth to practice 2 to 4 times a day. And so
2
like
to 4
that,
times a day in addition to, like,
well,
school
like
and shit?
go drop him off, pick him up, drop him off, pick him up. Yeah, and luckily we've got a village, so, that's wonderful that we've got other people helping, but I that has really turned a big corner. I think also when they can learn to, like, get up and make themselves breakfast in the morning and, like, they can make themselves a sandwich at lunch, like, that also really helps, and I think when you don't have to worry about their safety, physical safety anymore, right? Like, they're not gonna burn down the house if you leave them for an hour,
Yeah, or
or you
just choke on something
right, right.
generally.
So depending
Air.
on your kid, yeah, yeah. I mean, some of you have 16-year-olds probably that you still worry about some of that stuff, but
Perhaps.
and, sometimes I'm like, "Oh god, how do I leave y'all at home alone this long?" But now I have to worry about screen time. Now I've gotta
Oh.
worry about, like, are you taking breaks on screens or are you just a zombie when I get home? And trying to help them set up those parameters.
Yeah, you mentioned some of the, like, new issues that have sort of shifted now that your kids are older, like, are there any particular kind of examples you can share about, like, how you've managed some of these things, like phone time, social boundaries, all of that kind of stuff, like, how do you manage that?
A lot of learning and failing and learning some more. A lot of asking counselors like, "Hey, this is what we're doing. Is this right?" Even though I'm a counselor myself, they're my kids, so I need somebody else to like fact check me and just make sure we're doing the right thing. We've tried to use technology to our advantage, so trying to allow them slowly to have more access to things. We're still 100% no social media. I think I just let my daughter have Pinterest because she likes to pin. She was pinning stuff all over my Pinterest board, and I'm like, Okay, you need your own." So that one I feel pretty safe with, but like, no, there's no Snapchat, there's no TikTok, there's no Facebook, or I guess nobody uses that, but Instagram. We try and put parameters on their social, like on their phones, so they have time limits on things and try and use that to our advantage. As we try and advocate for them to set reminders for themselves to take breaks every hour or two and do something else, with varying levels of success with ADHD kids, giving them other things that they have to do. So, like, we tell them, like, you need to contact a friend once a day, talk to them on the phone besides texting, or go see them. That luckily they've got friends close by. You need to go cook something. You need to do a load of laundry. So they have things that they're like break points throughout the day. Internet safety is always a hard one. So my 13-year-old has a ton of parameters on her phone that don't allow her, like, she doesn't have access to the general internet, which I think is huge. We've started, there's a thing with Google that once they turn 16, they kind of have access to their phones based off the programs we were using. So like teaching them internet safety, don't look at stuff you're not supposed to, that sort of stuff. That is still a major learning curve because I think at 16, that's just hard to manage. So something we're still actively working on. They don't have computers or TVs in their bedrooms. It's only in shared space. And really, they don't have access to a computer unless they need it for school. So these, that kind of stuff. And then driving, like we're lucky, he's a homebody. We have to kick him out of the house about half the time. He would rather just be at home, and we're like, hey, you can go to the movies. Like, we give them an allowance that they have to share every week that they can use for like, go grab yourself lunch, go to the movies, go get some candy from the convenience store, which is his current favorite thing to do. And so
That's
trying
I hate doing that. Oh my god.
Such a
Yeah,
markup.
I know.
Such a markup,
I'm
bro.
always so surprised at like teenage hobbies. I'm like,
I know.
I hate that. That's the worst part of my life, I think. Like my,
Right.
like the daily stuff. Like I hate that. I hate that I have to buy a $10 candy bar at the
M&M
yeah.
bag.
Yeah.
It's like 8 M&Ms in there.
$6 for a half a bag of chips. Like, oh my God. Yeah.
Yep, that's his favorite thing right now. So
No, I'm so curious about the whole this is not this podcast, and I wish it was. We're gonna have to do something else. I don't know. I'm so curious about the no social media rule. I love it, but man, that's a big. Has it been challenging?
Yeah, did they push back on it?
I'm really lucky. My kids, I don't know if it's because we've said since they were itty bitty, like, you're just not. And so there's been no interest. My son's is totally different than my daughter. She's going to push me on it for sure when she gets older. And I don't know what we're going to do. I know Instagram has this new like teen account situation. I know I've got a friend trying that with their teen, and they've been lucky so far with that. I don't know. I just think social media is such a slippery slope. But my oldest, he could care less. He has no interest in social media. I can't get him to be on the things he needs to be on for school. So like he's like, whatever. My phone's for video games only and occasional texting. And so my daughter is different. She is going to want things for sure because she is a social animal, and we're just going to try our best to just not until I don't, it's pretty much till you're out of my house at 18. If you go off to college or whatever, then it's up to you, or you're paying your phone bill. It may be actually what I do. So we haven't had much problem with it at all.
Yeah, I'm also thinking about like the conversations that you have to have with your kids, particularly if they're going to be on the internet or using social media, like they get more complex and more nuanced. Like you were talking about, like when you had littles, it's like, don't touch that, don't put that in your mouth, sit down, whatever. Right. And now it's about like trying to have more nuanced conversations with your kids about all sorts of things, and particularly kind of internet safety and social media and just social interaction with humans in general. Like, how do you set yourself up for success there with your kids? Like, how do you approach those kinds of conversations? Do you find that you are doing well in the whole like adding nuance to your to your conversations with them? Not just don't do that.
I think it's a learning curve. I wouldn't say I'm great at it. I think we try to have those open conversations with them as we see stuff in social media that comes up because they do have YouTube, which I go back and forth on how okay I'm with that and how
I
much
know.
access
It's
because it
weird
is
shit on YouTube.
there's weird shit on YouTube. And I think the latest thing that's come up, like where I would say there's probably bleed over from my clients and just stuff I'm seeing in general in the world is like the blue pill, red pill situation and how that's coming up specifically for my adolescent boy.
Mhm.
And it has, I just actually brought that up with him and didn't have an in depth, but I was like, we're going to come back to this. Is like that whole how that's woven into so much of social media right now and just media in general.
Yeah. And
And
into
how,
places that you wouldn't necessarily expect it
Mhm.
to be, but it's
Right.
woven there. Yeah.
Yeah. And how that is so nuanced. I actually told my husband the other day I want to watch Adolescent with him, the show on Netflix, which I probably need to pre-screen. But so I think we try when we see it come up in media or we hear it come up in conversations like that he's sharing with us about his friends, we try and talk through it then about like what did you think there? And we've had a couple of times he's a therapist child where he's had friends confide in him about stuff that's like a deeper emotional situations. And so we've talked through those as we've seen them come up. But again, like they're not going to tell you everything. a lot of times, not a lot of times, sometimes like we do regular phone checks on both of them. And so we'll see stuff come up and we'll talk to them about it, especially if we're concerned about how they responded or they didn't respond or they ignored it. Like, then we're going to have conversations about, like, here's what you should have done. Here's how you can respond in the future. And so I think that's probably one of the best ways we can do that for our kids.
One thing you just said that sort of got me thinking was you said they're just not going to tell us everything. It makes me think about the shift in your role as a parent as you have a teenager around, like, you are 100% in control of your child's life when they're like little bitty, right? You control their environment, you control everything. And as they get older, you have to kind of let go a little bit and be okay with that. And I'm wondering about like your own personal experience as a mom, and particularly knowing what you know as a mental health professional, but like, how do you be okay with that? Just like, they just don't tell me everything and I'm just fine with that emotionally. Like, how do you feel? How's that work?
No, definitely not okay with it. I think you have to learn to be okay with it. Otherwise, you'll drive yourself nuts. And I have 2 kids that we do talk about a lot of stuff, but they also really value their privacy, and I have to try to be okay with that, and sometimes I really am, and sometimes I'm really not. But I think what helps me sleep at night with that is that they do have counselors that they trust and that I really trust, and so I know that they see on a regular basis, and we're at the point in their lives where, there's not really anything going on where they need to be seeing a counselor, like mental health wise, they're in good places. But that's not the point.
Nope.
And I think some people struggle with that, right?
Yep.
I just
Yep.
need them to have their person, right? That's not me, that they trust. And then having other trusted adults in their life that they can go to if they need to. Like,
This
we have a village. Yes, we are
Yeah.
very lucky. We have a village. We have other adults in our life that we have had the just sheer luck and maybe creation to be able to help parent our kids when we need it, and vice versa. And so I trust that they will go to them if they have a struggle that they don't want to talk to me or their counselor about. Most of the time it's their counselor though. And I trust that even if I don't know what's going on, that they're going to tell their counselor and they're going to work it out with their counselor. And if it's something I need to know, they'll let me know.
But then what
Right.
about your feelings? Like, doesn't that hurt your feelings that you're not the one they come to, or like they didn't talk to you about it? How do you deal with that?
I'm trying to think. I'm sure there has been a time where it's hurt my feelings, but I think, maybe I've just learned to be okay with that. And I think thankful that we have built this, that they have other people that they can trust. Because to me, that's the most important thing. Because a kid that feels isolated, that doesn't feel like they can trust anybody is definitely more of a concern to me than anything else. And at the end of the day, my concern as a parent is that they are okay.
That they have someone to go to. And if
Mhm.
it's not me, then okay.
And at least I feel comfortable knowing the people they're going to go to,
Yeah.
rather than it's just some random, like,
Sure.
friend that doesn't, and they're blindly helping each other, which is
You've vetted these people. You've
Mhm.
decided what community to surround them with, what
Exactly.
what adults to surround them with, and to allow them to build connections with.
Mhm. And I think it's important to know their friends, like, as much as we can, right? Is to know the people they're hanging around, because that makes a huge difference too.
Because that's their network right now. Like, that
Mhm.
their friends are the ones they're confiding in, and their friends are also the ones that are giving them advice and telling
Mhm.
them things and sharing experiences, and wouldn't it be nice if even if you don't necessarily love the friend, like, wouldn't it be nice to at least be on really good terms with the with the friend?
Mhm.
Was it hard for you to pick a counselor for your kid?
It wasn't, I got lucky. I had another counselor friend who had her kid from we st my daughter was the first one we found, and so was already seeing a counselor that she loved, so I kinda just piggybacked off her, and then when I used her to find me somebody for my son, and I'll be honest, there are times when I have not agreed with either of them, right?
Yeah.
And I've just had to step back a little bit and be like, "Hold on. Yes, I'm a professional, but I'm not the professional in this situation, and I pick these people because I trust them." And my husband's really good about, like, checking me when I'm getting a little, anxious about something or worried about something I don't necessarily need to be completely worried about. And so I've just had to work through that. And again, ultimately, like they may not be the perfect counselor. There isn't one out there. And they may not be exactly what I would have picked for my kid at all the time, but my kid loves them and trusts them. And that's more important than having the exact skills I think my child needs for them,
Mhm.
you know?
Yeah.
That is so insightful and so interesting. Like, I'm not the professional in this situation. I imagine that's so difficult. I feel like
It's taken some work.
I would just be like, so I don't have a child, but like, people, the adult clients that come to me and like talk to me about other counselors that they've had or like, you know, I don't know, so maybe their adolescence counselor or something like that. And I'm like, okay, what? Like, I'm like hypercritical because I'm like this advocate for this person. And it's so that I bet it has taken a lot of I
Mhm.
imagine it's
Oh,
way
yeah.
more intense with a child that is yours. Whoa.
Mhm.
Oh, man. Do you feel like you have changed as a counselor after becoming a mom? Or maybe as a mom of teenagers?
I definitely think so. I think each step it gives you a different insight. And I think I'm not a person that believes you have to have kids to work with kids as a counselor, but I do think it gives you a different perspective. And I used to hate that because I saw kids before I had kids for a short time. At least I saw teens before I had teens. And so I think it does give you a different insight. And I think also having kids that are neurodivergent also gives you a different insight into you living with them at each stage and learning. And I think, yeah, it forces you to grow in a different way and therefore have different knowledge to share with other people.
I'm curious about what you're anticipating for this next phase of motherhood because you're in the teenager stage, but the next phase is like empty nesting or something, or like, I don't know, they move out. Are your kids going to move out? Because not everybody thinks their kids are going to move out right away.
You know, I if you'd asked me that 3 months ago, I would have been like, my oldest is probably gonna stay home for his first year or 2 and commute, and my youngest is gonna fly the nest as quickly as possible, and I'm gonna see her occasionally just because she's wants to be hyper independent. I don't know where she gets it from. But then my oldest went to a camp, like a college camp this summer and got to experience dorm life, and that's part of the reason, like, I thought it was really good for him to do that camp is so that he could see what it's like and get a taste of it, and he loved it. He thought it was great. And so he's like, "Yeah, I think I do wanna go away for college." And then my daughter this year has started going, "Mom, I don't wanna leave. Like, I don't ever wanna leave." And I'm like, "Oh, sweet baby. You'll change your mind.
Give it a
You'll
couple
be sick
years.
of me."
Give it a couple
You
Yeah,
years.
got time.
Yeah,
because
Yeah.
again, I'm still her best friend, so so we're not there yet. But yeah, I think I don't know. It's so hard to say. I think it is gonna be a challenge. Empty nesting is gonna be a challenge. I hope that they're like I was and have the relationship that I had because I had an amazing relationship with my parents and still came home on the weekends at least every other weekend, actually through most of my college. And so I hope to be that. And if they do stay home, I'm okay with that as long as they're doing something. And I think both of them will be in college just based off of what their interests are and what they wanna do. But it's gonna be a challenge and I think a different chapter to shift focus and not just throw myself completely back into work and
I was about to
ha
say, it's a good time to have a fourth baby slash
exactly,
nonprofit.
exactly. Gotta do something.
Oh my gosh. You could just like rest, like read a
Um,
book,
I do.
swim.
I do. I read a ton. Like, I've got hobbies, but, like, I get bored. I get
Mm,
bored.
mm. All right. Well, what do you think the most useful kind of support is for moms in this stage of motherhood? Like when they've got teens, like what's the kind of support that's the most helpful?
I think finding other people, obviously, that are going through the same things is helpful. Having that camaraderie. I think finding your own therapist to have support in that area and having support for your kids and therapy, I think is really helpful. And like, I know it's not a possibility for everyone, but I think if you can find your village, man, find a village and keep them and do whatever you can. Make that time, make that effort for those people because it pays off in so many ways and for so many ways in your kids too, to have that extra level of support. Even if that's just family you have around, whatever it is, just healthy people you have in your life. is really important.
What is one piece of parenting advice that you swear by?
Oof. I think remembering that, like, well, I think the human part, like, you have to be a human to your kids too, and not be, you have to remember that they're humans and you're humans. This is your first time doing life. So I think, so I've got two pieces of advice. So being able to apologize, being real with them when you've got stuff going on within levels of like, boundaries and stuff like that. But then also remembering that it is like a bank. So, like, you have to pour in and make deposits into your kids' emotional accounts, right? And remembering that that takes time and effort and intentionality, but that there are going to be things where you need to withdraw, whether it's something you screwed up and you yelled at them and lost your temper, whether it's just like a hard conversation you have to have, whether it's giving consequences. And if you're making constantly withdrawals and not deposits, then you're going to lose that relationship with your kids. And as they get older, they're not gonna talk to you. They're not gonna confide in you. They're not gonna come to you with stuff. And so you've got to remember that give. And that if you do get to a negative point, then you're gonna have to spend extra time depositing back into that emotional bank in order to get where you need to be, where you're comfortable with that relationship and they're comfortable with you again.
Yeah,
Love
like
that.
parents often don't remember like you're in a relationship with your child.
Yeah.
All the relationship rules generally apply.
Bye.
Yeah, like you have to let them know about stuff. Like you have to actually take them on, little dates and you have to spend time with them and you have to engage in their interests even if you
Yes,
don't like it.
Yeah. Who they
absolutely.
are as individuals. Yeah.
And support that. Don't try and turn them into little mini yous. Like, support whatever they're interested in, even if you think it's dumb and ridiculous.
Yeah. I talk about the emotional bank account all the time with married couples. So I love
Mhm.
this idea that it totally applies to your relationship with your children too. Makes perfect sense. What about a recommendation for like a thing, like a tool, a book, an item that you'd recommend to others?
I recommend to my and reading it, I think it kind of applies at any stage, is The Whole Brain Child. I think that's a really
Yes.
great
Oh
book.
my god,
It's
yes.
like it's
Speaking that
kinda like the
language.
Bible of raising
Thank
your
you.
kids.
It is. It really
Um,
is. I recommend it to every parent forever. Like,
yes.
it is a Bible for parenthood.
Seminal book.
Yeah, sorry.
I
I
think
get really
it's yeah,
passionate about it because parents are like, "What should I do?" And I'm like, "Just literally read Dan Siegel, and you'll probably be fine."
mhm. Yes, exactly. Read, listen to podcast, like, do anything around him, he's amazing. I think that's probably been the most helpful thing for us besides just, like, with my spouse really checking in and talking constantly about the kids' needs and where they're at and keeping each other in check with that. Like, if I'm being short-tempered and I don't recognize it with one of the kids, like, checking them, like your spouse checking you and be like, "Hey, you've been really short-tempered. What's going on?" And being able to trade out. So if
Mhm.
you're at your max capacity that day and then you tap in somebody else, but then trying to keep that as balanced as possible.
That means you both have to read the book, is what I am
Oh,
sort of
yeah,
hearing.
absolutely. Oh, absolutely. My husband put it on Audible and we started using the language with each other too, so that we were on the same page.
Genius.
I know. I'm seeing a trend or a pattern here. Like, everyone we've spoken to is like, "Get a partner who is an actual partner,"
Yes, 1,000%.
because it's a group project.
Mhm. It's a group project, but in the best way, so where it's hopefully no one's just not doing the work.
Right. Yeah. No one person can carry this group project load. That sucks. We all know how much that sucks.
Mhm.
So find a good teammate. Yeah, totally. Okay, cool. Well, thanks for doing this, Kelly.
Yeah, it's been fun.
Yeah. I think you've got a lot of wisdom for people about this stage. At least it's also kind of relatable and it sounds a little more fun than some of the conversations we've had with people with like toddlers. I mean, my God.
Oof. Yeah, that's
Those are
rough. Man.
those are big talks. Those are big talks, yeah. And newborns. Those are also
Ooh,
big
Ugh,
talks. If you
my.
haven't gone and checked those out already and you're behind a little bit, maybe go check those out so you can get to the good stuff or maybe return to the good stuff with Kelly. because it's a journey. That's one thing I think I'm
Yeah.
coming away from at this point. We're not done yet, but it is a whole ass journey. But a lot of the resources are kind of the same, like throughout. So I love how this is turning out. Thank you, Kelly, so much. And thank you guys so much for listening to our special series on motherhood and counseling we got going on right now. If you like it, please let us know. Give us a 5-star review wherever you're listening to, like Spotify, Apple Podcast, iHeartRadio, whatever you're listening to us on. Give us a 5-star review. Connect with us on social media. We're on Instagram at TherapyTPod. You can also shoot us an email. We're therapytpod@gmail.com. Thank you guys again for all your support for the podcast. And we will be back again next week.